Hi, my name is Matt, and a few weeks ago my girlfriend mentioned that she's moving into a new apartment, which means she needs some new furniture, and I get to have some fun new projects. Now I'm going to start out with a couple of bedside tables. I've tried to make this design easily enough where you could build it for under $15 with Home Depot lumber and just three basic tools: a miter saw, a drill, and an orbital sander. Hope you guys enjoy, and have a great day. Now, this project is going to be broken up into 7 different steps. The first one is to make these side posts that form the X. And for that, I'm just cutting them at a 22.5-degree angle because that is just a really convenient spot. And I'm cutting them to a length of about 34 inches. And I'm trying to use stop gaps to make sure that my cuts are consistent. Now once I have all 4 of the posts cut out, it's time to cut the drawer slide. And for this, I'm just using the miter saw to make a 3/4 of an inch dado. And you just want to make this dado as thick as you're going to want your drawer to be. Now for me, I decided to make this dado at about 6 inches down from the top, and that came out to be a good size for the slide. Now it's time to cut the mating dados, and for that I'm cutting at a 45-degree angle. Again, nice, easy, lockable angles. And I'm just cutting one half, then flipping it over, and using the same stop gap to cut the other half. And with doing that, I can make sure that the dado is going to end up in the middle every time. Now it's time for me to cut the top, and as I discussed in the intro, I think that you could make this side table using just 3 tools: a miter saw, an orbital sander, and a drill from Home Depot lumber. And if you're wanting to do everything from Home Depot lumber, I would suggest using old fence posts for the top and the drawer. However, I have some pecan lying around, so I decided to use that to make the top and to make the drawer front. As for the actual parts of the drawer, I had a whole bunch of just scrap 3/4 inch plywood lying around, so I decided to use that to cut out the drawer bottoms as well as the sides and the back. And that's what you're seeing me do here. Now, for the sides, I'm trying to cut in a 22.5-degree angle after I get 2 sections that I'm making the total height of this drawer about 4.5 inches. I also wanted to make sure that the drawer sticks out a little bit past where the back is to make sure it has some distance to ride on those rails. I also wanted to make sure to cut a 22.5-degree bevel on the drawer front for the bottom, so that way it can mate up really well with the drawer front itself. And now I'm making the drawer sides. And again, I'm just cutting them at a 22.5-degree angle so that way they can meet up well with the drawer front, and the drawer front can be flush to the X sides. Now it's time to make that drawer front. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be making this out of some of my scrap pecan that I had lying around. I'm cutting it to a length of about 11.5-12 inches, which is a little bit wider than the drawer itself. That way it covers up all the exposed plywood edges. The only thing that you want to make sure when you're doing this is to cut those 22.5-degree bevels that you're going to see me do here in a second, as well as you want to make sure that you don't make this wider than the 2x4s. In the distance, the 2x4s will be apart, and that should be relatively easy to do. Be very careful when you're cutting these bevels, for obvious reasons. Now it's time to assemble everything. And to start out, I'm going to add a little bit of extra bracing to the X. And for that, I just cut up a little bit of extra scrap plywood. You really don't have to do that, but it just made it a little bit more rigid for me. Now, whenever I looked at the top, I noticed that it was a little bit too thin, and so I had to cut off some of the width so it didn't have any exposed 2x4 sticking out. So I just set up a stop block and cut off a little bit of excess 2x4. Now it's time to assemble the drawer, and for that I'm just using a little bit of glue and then putting in a couple nails to hold everything in place while the glue dries. Now it's time to add a little bit of horizontal bracing, and for that I'm just using a scrap 2x4 that I cut down to 1.5 by 1.5. You can use a round dowel as well, or a full 2x4. Really, any piece of material that you have, you want to use that to create the total width of the end table. Once I had it all assembled, I just wanted to make sure that the drawer itself would slide. Now it's time to start working on finishes, and I decided to go with a Shou bond finish on all the exposed pine, as well as a boiled linseed oil and paste wax finish on the entirety of the project. Now I really like using Shou bond because that burned wood look is really hard to mess up. I know anytime that I've tried using any stains, they don't always come out the best, but whenever I use Shou bond, it comes out really professional looking and just really nice with very little effort. I do wish I had a bigger torch though. Now it's time to attach the tabletop, and I decided to do this with bolts and threaded inserts, but you could easily do this by just screwing down into the table, and frankly I think that would actually make a little bit of a better look if you just did a little bit of a pattern with the screws. Now once I got everything attached, this is how it came out. If I was going to go back and do this again, I think I would go ahead and just screw in the top. And if you wanted to see me make this out of all wood from Home Depot, just leave a comment down below and I will get on it. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe and have a wonderful day.